We've all seen the holy grail of internet travel advice, the extreme budget hacks that promise you can cross oceans, secure an apartment, and immediately drop your bags in a brand new city for a fraction of the price. Booking a $50 seat on a low-cost carrier and splitting an unregulated short-term rental feels like a definitive win. You beat the system. You kept your money. But the system doesn't actually absorb that discount. In the Canary Islands, the sudden, overwhelming volume of these budget arrivals has triggered a desperate reaction from the people who live there. Locals have resorted to massive public demonstrations and even hunger strikes. Their water supplies are drying up, their housing markets are depleted, and daily life has become entirely unaffordable. Those viral travel hacks don't eliminate the expense of a vacation. They simply offload the true financial and environmental costs onto the host communities, driving a breaking point known as overtourism. Every city has a mathematical threshold called its carrying capacity. But today, global booking platforms scale visitor numbers instantly, pushing volume regardless of whether a local power grid or water network can physically handle the surge. In Canggu, Bali, what was once a quiet village is now choked with traffic and hazardous power lines because an unregulated flood of private tourist villas was dropped directly into a residential zone. Developers carve out unpaved, disconnected dirt roads to reach these new properties. Because these paths aren't integrated into the local government's planning, they degrade rapidly, accelerating the physical deterioration of the entire town. Venice is drowning under a different strain. Huge cruise ships dwarf the historic architecture, depositing day trippers who arrive by the thousands, crowd the narrow streets for a few hours, and leave almost no money in the local economy. This is a Silicon Valley approach to travel, scaling up volume via digital platforms while ignoring the long-term maintenance of the physical destination. It prioritizes maximum growth over infrastructure, and it's making these cities unlivable. Curious, in response to this collapse, an academic countermovement has emerged. It's called degrowth, and it demands the complete abandonment of the industrialized tourism machine. The goal of degrowth travel is a zero-impact footprint. That means refusing to participate in commodified experiences, boycotting aviation, and rejecting standardized hotel chains. Instead of boarding a jet, travelers rely on hitchhiking, bicycles, or walking. It strips away digital convenience in favor of raw, unassisted movement. But traveling at this pace requires an enormous amount of unconstrained time. To make this transit work, society would have to drastically reduce traditional working hours, so people actually have the months required to travel slowly. If you want a truly ethical budget vacation, this is the math. Degrowth eliminates the social damage because the traveler simply refuses to consume the resources that cause it. Which brings us to the obvious question: is an uncompromising, extreme exercise in frugality actually an enjoyable way to spend your time off? The reality of the degrowth model is harsh. It strips away air conditioning and soft beds, replacing them with physical exhaustion, exposure to the elements, and a demand for relentless endurance. That stands in direct opposition to what the average consumer actually wants. We don't scour the internet for rugged authenticity. We look for luxury amenities priced at a steep discount. We feel entitled to the convenience of modern travel without the premium price tag. And because tourists refuse to accept the physical discomfort required to ease the burden on host cities, we've reached a deadlock. The public ultimately rejects the degrowth philosophy. We want the financial benefits of a low-impact vacation, but we refuse to sacrifice the comforts provided by industrialized mass exploitation. Since travelers won't regulate their consumption, local governments are stepping in. They're engineering friction into the experience, trying to aggressively price out the budget traveler. Barcelona is deploying data-driven micromanagement to reclaim its streets. The city now strictly limits the opening of new souvenir shops in high-density areas and places severe restrictions on visitor parking. Amsterdam's Tourism and Balance program tracks live location data to identify overcrowding, forcefully pushing visitors out of central historic districts. Local apps intentionally redirect foot traffic away from famous landmarks, using algorithms to send you to peripheral zones instead. Between targeted taxation, app-based misdirection, and strict zoning, these interventions signal the end of the consequence-free, ultra-cheap travel era. Every trip has a final balance sheet, and the numbers are unforgiving. There is no such thing as a cheap vacation. It just comes down to who takes the hit. The deficit is either paid by the livelihood and infrastructure of the host community, or it is paid by the physical comfort and time of the traveler. If we continue to exploit digital travel hacks and low-cost airlines, we are actively accepting the displacement of local residents and the structural collapse of the places we visit. If we choose the ethical alternative, we have to accept physical exertion, a loss of modern convenience, and a radical degree of self-reliance. The true cost of a cheap flight is always paid in full. You just have to decide if you're going to force the destination to pay it, or if you are going to pay it yourself.